Recapping the NFL, 5 most important things I saw this weekend. Is Lauri Markkanen next? Does he actually have next? No, we'll save that for Wednesday. Okay, San Francisco's up 13-7 on Kansas City. Kansas City a little sloppy with the football that started off. Kansas City's up 14-13, but San Francisco's on the KC5. On my couch in this moment, as San Francisco's driving and battling with what I think is still the second best team in the NFL, and the Chiefs, I'm going, man, this is why you can't rule out the Niners. That's why you can't rule the Niners out. Look at this defense. They're making things tough. Garoppolo's moving the football here a little bit, and then within seconds, he throws a pick on 3rd and 5, or third down at the KC 5-yard line. It was within this, it wasn't even 30 seconds. It was this just cycle of thoughts where I went, hey, be fair. You know, you're thinking about how you want to craft, how you're talking about teams, whether it's this week or for the rest of the season. And then I was like, within not even 30 seconds, I was reminded why I actually don't know that I can take them all that seriously, even though the resume with the 2 NFC appearances, title game appearances, the resume tells you that you have to keep you kind of have to still factor in the Niners somewhat. That was, according to Mike Sando's column this week, which I always check on Monday morning, the worst defensive performance by the Niners in 377 games, because then the Chiefs put it on them. 21 points. McCaffrey played 21 snaps. It's not like he had anything to do with them not getting it done. But just, again, those little reminders, Garoppolo, as much as you can talk yourself into the 1-loss record with him, again, what is my rule? What does the team do with their own quarterback? Are they doing things where it looks like they want to move on from their own quarterback and I don't necessarily like the quarterback? Then I feel pretty good about my position. So there you go with that. Tom Brady is under 500. This is number 2. He is under 500 through 7 games for the first time in 20 years. You want to know how misleading quarterback stats can be? Let's check some out here with Brady. His final stats, he was 32 of 49, 290 yards. Because I kept looking at the stat line while they had 0 points throughout almost the entire game. They ended up getting 3 against Carolina. So if Brady were 32 of 49, 290 yards with no picks, you'd be like, they probably, 21 points, controlled the game at Carolina. They're on their 3rd string quarterback. Probably pull that one out. Nope. Because they were 2 for 12 on 3rd downs, which isn't very good. They're still in first place. They're still in first place in that awful NFC South division. But there's a bigger thing going on, and that is the ultimate time when it had to at some point look bad. I'm not sure that I'm there yet. And when he said, 7 years ago he's going to play until he was 45, I thought that was ridiculous. But it's a bit like the LeBron thing where you're just waiting. Be like, how weird is it going to be when it looks bad? The stats for Brady are bad, but there's a lot of stuff that's bad. The O-line isn't that great. They've had to shuffle that group. They have had better receiving options the last few weeks after shuffling through who their top 3 guys. Julio Jones not being a factor, to me, that's not super surprising. That's why I don't get excited about an older guy who's hurt all the time looking great in camp. Everybody looks fresh at the beginning. It's the same thing in the NBA. Like, man, this guy's moving around. Okay, how's it going to look in March if he's a little bit older? And then, of course, the off-the-field stuff with Brady and his personal life and, some of this stuff, which is, I don't know what to make of it. I'm not going to do a 30-minute open on divorce. I'm sure a lot of people would appreciate that. But if this ends up being the end and it doesn't get any better, then that will be a playing of the results where they'll go, he missed all this time in August. He went to Kraft's wedding, right? Like, you really think Brady couldn't, if he hadn't gone to Kraft's wedding, the Pittsburgh game would be different? You say, hey, well, other quarterbacks couldn't get away with it. Yeah, no shit. When you have Brady's resume, you're allowed certain things. And my thing that I would allow Brady is that I'd expect that he's going to be okay going to a wedding on a Friday before a Pittsburgh game. But you add all these things up when they're not playing this well, and you start picking and choosing whatever you want to go to. And I'm telling you, I can't come up with an answer. They can't run the football to save their lives. There's 64 yards per game now on the ground, which is last in the NFL by a pretty good chunk. I don't know if this is going to get turned around, but Vilma, who I like, was on the broadcast going, I don't know why Tampa Bay is getting so much shit from the media. They're still in first place. But like, dude, they're 3-4. Like, this is why they're getting so much shit. Look at this game. Like, just when you think the Pittsburgh game was bad, this was way worse. And I now am watching every week going, this guy will be old, right? At some point, it will be too much for him. But yet, I don't think that's necessarily exactly what's happening right now. All right. Staying in the NFC, before I get to number 3 here, if you look at the playoff standings as of right now, Philly, no surprise, the 1 seed. Minnesota's your 2 seed. Seattle's a 3 seed. Tampa's still a 4 because of the division. The Giants are 5. Dallas is 6. And the Rams are actually still in this right now as of today. Green Bay is 10th. Number 3, people wanted to call in about the Russillo Fund. Some of our calls, we had some good stuff in the college football sector this year. We were early on not believing in Oklahoma. We were early on not believing in Ole Miss. We'll get to that a little bit later. Those are minor positions. We were able to, we could have just retired on our Westbrook Harden and Russell Wilson personality funds that we had going on. There was a lot of volume in the Russell Wilson personality fund. So we had to kind of close some of the rounds in that one just out of just sheer demand. We'd like to say that we're cycle agnostic. I heard that the other day. We will zag though at some point, but there's definitely some concerns in our Daniel Jones position. Some people are calling, being like, are we on the right side of this bet? It doesn't feel like it right now. They're 6-1. That was a great win against Jacksonville. Like, there was a lot of different stuff that had to happen for that game to go down the way it did, but it wasn't like a fluky thing. Yeah, I know Jacksonville had that fumble, but like, I like Jacksonville, kind of. I think they're a team that you have to be up for, and it kind of feels that way too. Like, how many teams do you go down where, like, even the Raiders, who have this terrible record, look at their offense. Look at their offensive rankings. Like, I think there's less easy W's in the NFL, at least the first half of this season, than I've seen in a while. So I should say there aren't as many easy outs. But Daniel Jones, who had 35 turnovers in his first 3 years, so that's picks and fumbles lost because he had even more fumbles that he didn't lose. He's gone a month now without a pick, 0 fumbles this season. So people are asking about our position as far as the Daniel Jones part of our thing. And we wrote a letter to our investors, and we said the analysis was correct, but the performance is wrong. And people want to know if we're going to sell our Chargers position. So those are 2 parts of the fund we don't feel great about. Number 4, is Cincy good again? They're 4-3. Let's recap their losses. Overtime, Steelers. Remember the missed field goal. Although Steelers missed one too and then won it in overtime. Dallas, 3-point loss. They were going up against Cooper Rush, and we know this. Cooper Rush never loses. And the last-second field goal loss to Baltimore. So those are the 3 losses. Let's look at the resume. They're 14th in yards per play, but they're 8th in points per game. Their defense is actually kind of top 10 in a lot of different categories. And one of the most important things you can do is, where are you in red zone touchdown percentage? They are 8th in that at 63%. You know who's the second worst team as far as touchdown red zone percentage? Because this is usually a pretty good indicator. Like, if you're doing this well, that's great. Same as third downs. Third down conversion against your defense. If you're doing those things well and the team has a bad record, you're like, okay, maybe that'll come back around. Seattle, who has this unbelievable offense, is 5th in points per game, and they're second worst in red zone touchdown percentage. That surprised me. The summary of this is pretty simple. There's a lot of things about Cincinnati you can like. I don't like when coaches the next year go, hey, we had 5 one-possession losses. Like, literally everybody had like 5 one-possession losses. But with Cincinnati, there's something there to tell you they might be actually better than the record. The final thing, number 5, thing I'm afraid to say, but I think I'm going to say it anyway. Is Micah Parsons the MVP? He is the best game wrecker on defense in the NFL. I don't know that that's debatable. And there's a lot of guys that we all like. And I do feel a little guilty kind of transitioning off of Aaron Donald, because that's just the guy I had so much joy in watching playing that side of the football. When you think about the awards, you have to think about not only who you are, but then again, who you're competing against. When we start really breaking down the college football playoff stuff and all these different scenarios, and you'll be like, well, would this team do this, this, and this? I'm like, okay, well, tell me what the other 4 conferences are doing. Who are their conference champions? Do we have multiple conference champions with bad resumes? You know, this isn't, hey, this team did this, yes or no. And that applies to the MVP as well. Because if you're Parsons and you're saying, well, can I actually win this? Well, who are you competing against? And this year might be the lightest competition at the top of the quarterback food chain that we've seen in a very, very long time. The old names, we've covered it. They look old right now. It's not working out. Could Mahomes just put up some stats? It doesn't matter. Kansas City ends up being a 2 seed. It's good enough. Josh Allen ends up getting the whole thing for the first time. Yep, no problem. But Parsons is doing some things in these games. Now, his win rate is number 1 in the NFL. His win rate last year was off the charts for even a rookie, but then he could turn and cover. The Philadelphia game, they schemed to kind of like try to make him make the decision to go at him, And when Lane Johnson came out, yes, that's different, but he almost brought Dallas back as a defensive player in the second half of that game. And the chase down tackle that he had yesterday, if you've seen that replay that he makes at the pylon, it looks like something's wrong with everybody else. It looks, if it were a video game, you'd be like, oh, computer dicking. Like they just had the defensive guy turn into Superman and tackle the other guy. Allen is on pace to break the all-time passing yardage record in NFL history. And if the Bills are the 1 seed, a quarterback's probably going to get it. But I think Parsons has a real campaign here. And we start it today.